Hey there everyone, this is Bud. This is a look at my Go Stadium Sinister Cup. I'm going to kick off round one here versus Tremero. He leads Claydol into my Poliwrath, so not a good matchup really at all. Just kind of build up some energy and then switch, hoping I can get off as much damage as possible. But I know he's building a lot of energy with his Claydol. So I'm hoping to really just burn some shields real fast, and then here comes in Bastiodon. Not sure if it's the right move to go straight for Shadow Ball. I mean, it does a nice little chip damage here, but I probably could have done 2 Ominous Winds, and then, I mean, if I got the boost, it probably wouldn't have helped, but I could have done 2 Ominous Winds for sure. Coming in back in with Poliwrath, I don't need a shield. Stone Edge isn't going to do a lot. Mistake here, I should have just farmed it down more. I go for Dynamic Punch really soon, because we know that Claydol is just going to come right back in, and I'm able to get off one Ice Punch, and I could have farmed it down. You know, I would have had not a lot of health left. I would have died, but I could have gotten off. Look, I was already almost to another Ice Punch. I could have gotten off 2. He would have been forced to shield the second one, because like I said earlier, he was storing up a bunch of energy. He has 2 Earth Powers ready to go, so I have to use both my shields. I probably could have gotten away with not shielding one of those, but I would have done a lot of damage. So here, I'm in a disadvantage. He has 1 shield. I do go for the bait with Crunch. He gives shields. I'm able to beat him to Earthquake. So this is where having that second shield would have been very useful, or that. And see, he's almost knocked out, but then I'm already in knockout range. And there it goes. So I lose game 1. Hopping into game 2, he leads his Metasham right into my Marowak, which really is kind of even because I'm running Fire Spin. So I build up a little bit of energy. I couldn't switch at first. I bet it helps me because I switched Steelix into a Shadow Punch instead of a Fire Punch. So he uses a little bit of energy there with the worst move. And I'm able to get to this Crunch right as he's getting to a Fire Punch. So I shield just to kind of keep my health full. I go ahead and use my Crunch. Doesn't shield it. And I think I'm able to actually just farm him down. So I have a bunch of energy already. I'm almost to Earthquake, but we know what's going to come in. And his Metacham, I probably could have switched. My timer was up, but it's probably better that I didn't. I used the Crunch, he shields. I'm almost able to get to another one, but I over tap a little bit. So I bring in Marowak. I go for the Bone Club just to see if I can get that second shield, and I do. And he goes ahead and switches again. I know I need to switch out because I have Poliwrath, which will lose to Metacham, and this is more or less neutral, so I don't fall for the bait there, and I just kind of go for Ice Punch to chip away its health a little more. The bubble is mainly what's doing the work here. I go ahead and shield because I'm pretty sure this is Shadow Ball this time. That would have knocked me out. I probably didn't need to go for the Ice Punch this time. I probably could have just farmed it down. But I still have a lot of energy. But this, I was pretty sure, this is why I switched. I knew it was going to have Psychic, so it one-shots me. And I go right for the Shadow Ball that I already had energy for. And that's going to be a win for me in game number 2. Alright, going right into the third game here, and I catches Claydol with Steelix, which is positive. I resist the confusion. I'm able to get the crunches faster. Then he can get to Earth Power. Definitely Psychic and Earthquake. So I get off the crunch, I get the first shield, and just kind of dragon tailing away. I almost get to the second crunch. So I go ahead and shield, and it's Earthquake, which would have probably killed me right there. So he switches out right as I'm tapping crunch, so it's a good switch on his part. I get the crunch off, does a little bit of damage, so I bring in Poliwrath. And I don't want to let him get to Earthquake, so I go ahead and use Dynamic Punch. Doesn't shield it, lets it go down. And very similar to the other match. Here comes in Clay Doll. I'm going to go ahead and go for the Ice Punch. He shields it this time. It wouldn't have killed him. I almost get to the second one. Kind of like earlier, I was kind of too aggressively tapping and I didn't get the charge move off. And go ahead and shield that. I'm pretty sure Earth Power would hurt way more than I would have wanted it to. This could have come back to bite me, I feel like. If I would have just tried to farm it down, it ends up being okay. Go for Shadow Ball. It does a nice little chip. I'm just kind of waiting for him to do a Stone Edge here to take me out. I'm able to get off not just this Bone Club. I'm able to get off another one right before I die. I think he was trying to save up his energy for when I switch back into Steelix that I had in the back. But I'm able to get off a second Bone Club and just take down the Bastiodon. So that was good games. Get that 2-1 victory. Going into round 2 against Bike Frog, I see that he has a Bastiodon and a Bronzong, so a little bit different flavor on this team. I go ahead and lead off game 1 with Marowak here into his Poliwrath, which isn't as good because I'm using Fire Spin, and I go for the Bone Club too soon, so he knows I'm not at Shadow Ball most likely. Doesn't fall for it. I go ahead and I don't shield this because most of his moves aren't going to hurt that bad. And it is Power Punch, so I switch into mine, assuming he has Power Punch, Ice Punch, and I go for Dynamic Punch. So thinking I have a clear advantage in Poliwrath. Doesn't shield it, it goes down. Wait and see what he brings in next, and it's Drifblim. So with Drifblim, I know that I'm going to force him to use his shields or they're going to hurt with these Ice Punches. So there goes one. And then I lost count. I wasn't sure if this was going to be Ominous Wind or Shadow Ball. But I know I need to get to these second and third Ice Punches anyways. So it's fine. So now both of his shields are gone. And I'm going to let this one go because I know I can take at least one Ominous Wind. And I get this last Ice Punch, hoping that it'll take it down all the way. But it does live on just a little bit. And he gets his last Ominous Wind off, which probably could have... he wouldn't have lived one more bubble, so... But I go ahead, I get this into my Marowak, take it down. I switch into Steelix with Sword Up Energy. I know I can live, a couple of flamethrowers, at least this one. And he doesn't have any shield, so I go straight for Earthquake, because we know what Earthquake does to Bastiodon. And there goes Bastiodon, and that's it for game 1. Alright, starting up game 2, I lead Marowak again, right into his Poliwrath again. So this time, I think I actually, build up to Shadow Ball this time before I go for the bait. So he was counting, thought I was actually going to go for it. You see these bubbles are doing work against me. And he has Hydro Pump, so there goes my poor Marowak. So I had guessed wrong earlier in the game. in the first match, thinking what I thought I knew what his moveset was. But knowing that he's not going to be able to get to really Hydro Pump again, or that it's not going to hurt Poliwrath as much, go ahead, get the Dynamic Punch off. And knowing that he didn't have enough time, I'm pretty sure this is just going to be Power Up Punch. And I'm just going to bubble him down. So I got stored up moves for whatever's coming next. Gardevoir, ouch. So get off the Ice Punch, which we know does good damage to it because it's super glassy. So I have 2 Ice Punches. And doesn't shield either of them, so that thing's almost dead. And I'm left with Steelix, which resists Charm, even though it's resisting Dragon Tails. So Drifblim, and I have 2 shields waiting. So go ahead and get this Crunch, burn his last shield. Oh no, doesn't shield it. I go ahead and shield this. So why not? I know he has another, he does still have 1 shield, so I know this should get shielded. I just gotta get to that second, or that third Crunch, and then that'll be it. It's probably charging up to go for back-to-back Ominous Winds, because I still had a shield left, but that's game 2. Alright, we're doing our third match. I go ahead and expect the Poliwrath again, so I lead my Medicham into it. And get to my first Power-Up Punch right as he's about to switch, so I'm like, oh, nope, Gardevoir, switch out, go into Steelix. Go for this Crunch. And he doesn't shield it, so Gardevoir is just, it hurts everything except Steel, but man, it can't take hits. I like using it in some instances, but it's kind of a liability. It takes so long to get to that charge move. And so, I don't know, Dazzling Gleam, I don't know if that was the only move. That's I think the only time he got to a charge move using it. So I didn't really probably need to shield it. I think I would have lived. But we know Poliwrath is probably going to come right back in here. We're both at 1 shield apiece. Get the Power-Up Punch. Lag just a little bit. I live the Power-Up Punch. Get off 1 more Dragon Tail. So now knowing he has Power-Up Punch and Hydro Pump, I kind of expect to know I can get away with, going for these things a little more. I can farm up some extra energy. So it lives. There, he switches out. I know he doesn't have any shield, so I'm going to go straight for Shadow Ball. Which, I really like Drifblim in this meta, but, it can't live with Shadow Ball to save its life. Not much things can, but here at least it has enough. And this was a little overkill, but I switch in, get the Psychic off, and that's it for game 3. So I win the series 3 games to none. Alright, so going in the round 3 against StevoBot, I notice he has the Haunter as well as a Mawile and a Gallade. I know people only bring Haunters if it has Shadow Ball, so I'm not looking forward to that. And he leads his Medicham straight into my Poliwrath, so I know this isn't really a great matchup. So that really wasn't a lot of counters. So there's a Power Punch. I go ahead and switch, and he switches right into his Haunter. So obviously, bad start. Get off this Ominous Wind, and he's forced to shield, but the Shadow Claws just do so much damage. And let me look at that. I'm like already in the red before him. So I just decide to kind of let it go and bring in Steelix. And I'm able to farm it down. So I'm almost to a crunch already, but we know that Yeah, Medicham is going to come right back in. I'm not able to switch in time. But, I mean, with its power punch, it's not going to do a whole lot of damage. I go straight forward dynamic punch. Probably should have tried to bait out his shield with an ice punch. Because now he's just working me over with counters. So I go ahead and shield just so I can try to burn his last shield. But he switches right into Marowak. I'm able to get off the ice punch right before I go down, but I mean that switch was timed perfectly, and I get off the second ice punch, but they're just not doing too much damage. He's down to half. He's in the yellow now, and here we go. I have no shields left, and this is Shadow Ball. Done. So that is going to be game 1. A lot of stuff I probably could have done a little better, but just could have stayed in with the first matchup. Alright, going into game 2. I'm expecting to catch his Haunter, but he leads the same thing, so I have to switch because that's a bad matchup. I switch into mine. No, and just terrible. This is probably one of the worst matches I've played. I miss Bubbles too, but he blocks the Psychic, so I'm at a huge disadvantage already. And then I, for some reason, shield this. I should have just let him go. And I mean, at this point, he knows that's not Psychic. There was nowhere near enough time. Just lets that go through. He goes down. So now I'm at a bad position. And then Mawile. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Nope, Shadow Ball. I don't even get off, I get off 2 bites. So poor Drifblim just comes out. Have to shield this. I think it's a Shadow Ball. No, Shadow Punch. So he still has a bunch of energy saved up. So here goes this. Get off this, Desperation, Ominous Wind. And here we go. So that is game 2. A lot of dumb plays on my part, but I mean, he had his strategy down and he knew what to do. So, I mean, it was good games for StevoBot here. Alright, so going for the 3rd game, just trying, get at least 1 win to feel good about myself. I lead Drifblim, and he led Haunter this time, so I probably should have stuck with my game 2 plan, but I mean, look, he's just tearing through this with Shadow Claws. So he goes for the Shadow Punch. I tried to switch. I don't know really what I was thinking. But I get off the Ominous Wind. He shields, and we just kind of get each other both into the red. Go ahead, take that. Switch into Marowak. And just fire spin him down. Mawile. I mean, this is kind of the only good use. Not the only, but one of the good uses of fire spin on Marowak for this is that it's just, going to do a lot of chip damage against these steel types and just melt them down. Even this Bone Club, does a little bit better damage against it. But there goes Marowak. He's almost dead. Medicham. I have 1 shield left to take out his Medicham. So go for the power-up punch. So mine are doing, extra damage now. And so I was thinking that he was going to do the same thing. He goes straight for Psychic. Almost takes me down. Now I go for Psychic. So on the bright side, I am, boosted on my attack on this one, but it doesn't take him down. And I got the defense fall. Great. 1 shield, which is just barely enough to live. So I at least get 1 game out of that. Alright, so sitting at 2-1, going into round 4 against Mate TB. Has the Cresselia on his team, which I think this was the first round of this tournament. Someone had it. So I go in with Drifblim. I'll look at that Mudshot Poliwrath. Pretty jealous of that. I'm not sure what he's going to do. I'm thinking it's going to be an Ice Punch, and I guess right. So go ahead, build up a little bit of energy, go for the Ominous Wind. Get the shield, and I'm 2 taps away. Boom, get my second Ominous Wind. does some damage. I go ahead and switch into my own Poliwrath. I'm just going to take whatever he's going to throw at me on the chin. It's a power punch. And he switches into Cresselia. So go ahead. I'm just going to try to get off as many ice punches as I can just to whittle this thing down. You know, on his part, he shouldn't shield any of this. And I don't think he does. He just plays it really well. And Confusion just chunking away. I'm able to get off the one last ice punch right before I got like 1 HP. Boom, there he goes. So then I can bring in Steelix, which really no matter what this Cresselia is going to do, it's not going to really hurt Steelix. I'm just going to kind of farm it down, take this other future sight. Because we know Poliwrath is probably going to come right back out. So I'm going to get off this crunch, force the last shield, and go ahead and just let my Steelix go down. Oh, nope, it was a power punch. So lived, use up some more of his energy at least. Should have just farmed me down at that point. Switches out into his own Drifblim. So I have one last shield this Ominous Wind. But we know what happens to Drifblim when it gets hit with a Shadow Ball. Same thing that happens to everything else. And go ahead and get off this last Ominous Wind. And that is going to do it for this game. So it was really close in that first round. Good games. Alright, lead pretty much the same thing. Lead Drifblim right into Poliwrath. So I know... Actually, I'm thinking he's going for Power Punch this time, so I don't shield. Do the same thing, build up past Shadow Ball, get off my Ominous Wind. And I'm thinking that this one was Ice Punch. Got me, wasn't counting. I kind of lose count when it's these mud shots. So there's the Ice Punch, plus 2 Ice Punch. So go ahead and get off this Ominous Wind. Oh, that was a Shadow Ball. I went for Shadow Ball and nuked him. So I'm super low here, and I'm able to get off the Shadow Ball. And he shields it wisely, so he's out of shields. So I just bring in Steelix. And get a little bit of lag as this Ominous Wind's going off. I probably could have farmed up a little bit more energy. So I shield here thinking that it was Shadow Ball. And he just got to that right before I got to my crunch too. So it takes that down, and in comes Cresselia. So I'm just going to have to try to fight hard to get to as many crunches as I can, just because I'm at such low health. And look, he actually messaged me GG while this fight was still going on for some reason. I think it might have just been delayed and from the first match. But in my head, I'm like, oh no, he jinxed me. My poor Steelix is going to go down, and Medicham is going to have to come in here and kill this thing. So the future sight is enough to take down Steelix. So here he comes. I'm just trying to counter down as fast as I can. And future sight does a lot of damage still. And obviously I could have gone for that power punch and ended it, but good games. He did not want to do game 3. Alright, going into the final round, I am against Chateau's Hurdles. I know he has Haunter and a Primate, so I'm guessing that those are Legacy, as well as a Cresselia and a Bastiodon. So lead off Steelix and get his Haunter. So that's kind of what I was hoping for. Just because he has Bastiodon too and somewhere on his team, so I was thinking I could cover both of those if those were the leads. He switches into Dusclops. I probably should have switched right away, But I take the Fire Punch and switch out into Driftblim. And I shield this next Fire Punch, or Shadow Punch. Build up the Shadow Ball, go for the Ominous Wind. So the shields, they get the second shield. I go ahead and gonna let this Shadow Punch go through. It does about a third. And I believe he lets this Ominous Wind go through, which is enough to almost kill it. He switches out into Haunter, which insta-kills my Dusclops. But I had this Crunch ready to go, which one-shots the Haunter. And then in comes Primeape. It does work. So I switch out, and there comes the Night Slash. That's why it makes Primeape kind of deadly in this cup. Go for the Bone Club bait, and he takes a shield. Night Slash is gonna hurt poor Marowak here a lot. There goes the Dusclops. Faints. Looks kind of goofy laying on his back there. And I think Bone Club is just enough to wipe this Primeape out, which is good because I know he would have demolished my Steelix if I hadn't been able to finish that. So going into round 2, thinking about how I played that first game. Yep, leads Haunter again. I catch him with the Mawile, and hence the switches out into Primeape. I bring in my own Poliwrath, and it ends up being Cross Chop, which does a lot of damage. Probably should have shielded that. It would have left me in a better situation if we just kind of nuked each other and then shielded everything. Because those counters are doing more work than Bubble is. It's kind of like the Medicham matchup in that sense. But I go ahead and shield this first Night Slash. But I know he's going to have a second one like right away. And I just go ahead and let that one through because it shouldn't kill me. And I'm able to build up the Shadow Ball and go for the Ominous Wind. Which if I had tried to farm it down, I felt like I was in range of getting another Night Slash. And my timer's up because I know it's coming in, so I go ahead and switch out to Mawile. And he's barely dead right before he gets off the Shadow Ball. So he has Dusclops left, which normally is a great matchup, but I'm at such low health, and he's at full health, that I know one Fire Punch that he gets to really quick is going to be enough to kill me. And he's had time to farm up extra. So, and I'm not at anything here. So he had a Fire Punch and a Shadow Punch all ready to go. So it was very well played by Jake to get that win. And he still had a shield. So even if I had a Shadow Ball ready to go or Ominous Wind, he still would have had me. Alright, so for the last match of this tournament, just thinking about how both of those last rounds went. He seemed to use the same lineup both times, I think. And what countered, I think, just kind of shielding and not switching fast enough, or switching before I had energy built. It's kind of key to winning. So I go back to the first lineup, I think. I hit Steelix into his Haunter again. He switches. I switch out like right away. Go into Driftblim. Ominous Wind. I win the CMP tie there. I get the first shield. I go ahead and shield the first Night Slash. Let the second one come through just like before. I go for Shadow Ball this time, thinking, just having him think that it's gonna be Ominous Wind, and it takes him down, and then Haunter comes in and melts me. So it already has a bunch of Shadow Claws built up, Shadow Claw energy built up. So I go for Crunch while he's building up to try to get off multiple attacks. So he shields the first crunch because he knows one will kill it. And I go ahead and shield this, thinking it's going to be Shadow Ball. And he gets me with the Shadow Punch. And then the Shadow Ball again. Ouch. So I'm able to farm him down. I think he told me that he had the Shadow Punch ready. And this is going to be close call. It's going to come down to the wire because Dusclops is thick and he eats that Shadow Ball. And then the Shadow Punch, I'm thinking right here, oh no. But I live just enough. And I get 2 fire spins off and I barely win. So those were really intense battles with Jake. Those awesome matches. So with that, my one loss, I was 4-1 and ended up being a 4-way tie. So looking forward to Ferocious Cup. See you there.